Hello everyone. So in this video, we're going to be looking at 3 different word problems with these systems of equations, and we're going to be following our problem solving plan here. So this should be written down along with the solutions to each of the problems. So starting off with this first one, we have an English quiz. It tells me it has 14 questions and it's worth 50 points. So multiple choice are worth 3 points, free response are worth 5, and we want to find how many of each question type there are. All right, so with these systems, since we have 2 equations, we're going to be looking at 2 different variables. So step 1 is we want to define our variables. So it looks like in this one we have multiple choice. We could just call that M. So this will say is the number of multiple choice questions. And free response, we'll just use F. So this will be the number of free response questions. Okay, so after we read the problem and define our variables, only then can we write our equations. So it looks like first thing it tells me is there are 14 questions. Okay, so if I take the multiple choice and the free response questions and add them all together, we should have 14 total. Okay, but I could also write an equation for the points because it tells me if these multiple choice are 3 points each, so 3 points per multiple choice question, and free response are 5, so 5 per free response. So if I add all those points together, we should have 50 points. Okay, so for this solving step, you do have the choice. Most cases one will be easier than the other, but you have your choice of substitution or elimination. Most likely you won't be graphing these because you'll be using different letters, but that option is still on the table. So I think elimination will probably be easiest here because if I have 3m, I could just multiply this top one by -3, and 3m, -3m will cancel. But since I already did a video on elimination, let's just go ahead, practice using substitution here just to get a mix of each. So substitution, remember we need a variable by itself. So I could either get the 3 and the 5 are on the way down here, but I could either get this m or f by itself. So if I want to get the m by itself, I could just do minus f. Okay, so it looks like m is equal to just the 14 minus the f. Okay, so in the other equation, wherever I see an m, I can replace it with 14 minus f. So right there, I could substitute 14 minus f in. So instead of m, I'm going to do 14 minus f. Okay, and then everything else in the equation stays the same. All right, so now I have an equation with just f, so we should be able to solve for just f. So 3 times 14 is 42 minus 3f. So I can distribute, then it looks like we have negative 3f plus 5f, so 5 minus 3 is a positive 2f. Okay, so I can minus 42 from both sides to get this f by itself, so 2f is equal to 8, and if I divide by 2, it looks like f is 4. Okay, so it asks we want the number of each question type, right? So if I know there's 4, f is the free response questions, I could go ahead and plug that in here. So to get the multiple choice, it's just doing 14 minus f, right? So if I do 14 minus the 4, we get 10. Okay, so final step is answer the question in context. So this means, especially, I always pay attention to units, but answer what the question is asking for. So if it's asking for how many of each question type, I'll state that there are 10 multiple choice questions, and there's 4 free response. Okay, so the units here will be just each of the question types. Rather than saying m equals and f equals, state what the actual numbers mean. So 10 of these questions, 4 of those questions. Okay, and you could double check, obviously, those are 14 total. And if you check with the points, these are 3 points each, these are 5 points each. Okay, so that's 30, 10 times 3, and 5 times 20. So 30 and 20 does give you a total of 50 points. So just a quick check is good as well. But it looks like we were correct in our answer. Okay, so on this sheet, I want to just go through the setup for this one, and then we'll focus on 2 and 3 over there. Okay, so here it already tells me H is hat and P is poster. I would still recommend writing it, but we're using those letters. Okay, so it tells me Keith bought a hat, and so a hat and a poster means 1 hat and 1 poster. Okay, so hat and a poster, and that cost him $26. You could put 1 hat and 1 poster if you'd like, but not necessary. Sarah purchased 4 hats and 2 posters. So 4 hats and 2 posters, and that cost her $88. Okay, so once again, it looks very similar to the other ones. You can minus the P and use substitution for H, or you can just multiply. I think the 2 is lower, so if you multiply by -2 here, 2p, -2p will cancel. So elimination or substitution, whichever you prefer there. All right, for number 2, this one's a little bit differently, but I want to take a moment to visualize this. So it says a hot air balloon is 10 meters above the ground. All right, so we have a hot air balloon. Let's put a circle for it. So it's 10 meters above the ground, and it's rising at a rate of 15 meters per minute. Another balloon is 150 meters off the ground, so much taller, and it's descending, right? So this one's going down, right? So it says, when will the two balloons meet? So somewhere they're going to, in the middle here, they're going to meet each other, right? So that'll be when they're at the same height, right? So we can write equations that represent the height, and we want to see when they're going to be at the same height. Okay, so if I look at hot air balloon 1, we could say that the height, so if we're using height, we'll just say, we'll use height, and then it looks like per minute, right? So we could write that in terms of minutes for m. Okay, so if I look at this balloon here, we know the height of this balloon, so it's 15 per minute, so 15 per minute, and the starting value is 10, right? So the initial value is the b, so if I do mx plus b, so initial value of 10, and I'm adding on 15 per minute because it's going up. Okay, and for the hot air balloon 2, that one, the starting value is 150, but this one's descending at a rate of 20 per minute, so I have to subtract off 20 per minute. Or you could do 150 minus 20m. So every minute you're taking away 20. So every minute it's going 20 down. So you want to subtract off 20 from the height. Okay, so we want the two balloons meeting. So that means they're at the same height, right? So I want, if this represents the height of balloon 1 and this is the height of balloon 2, I want when these two heights, so this height and this height, are equal, right? So I could set them equal. So if I go ahead and solve this, I could add 20. So bring all the m's to one side first, right? So I would bring the smaller to the bigger. So if I add 20m on both sides, so I get 35m, and I want that by itself over here. So this 10's got to go, so I can minus 10. So that'll give me 140. Okay, so if I divide both sides by 35, 35 goes into 140 4 times. Okay, and then remember, m is minutes here. So it looks like after 4 minutes, they're going to meet. And that's the only, answering the question here, it just says when, so we answered the question. If a follow-up question asks, at what height will they meet? Well, I know the two heights of the balloons here, so I could just plug in the 4 for m. So if I go ahead and do that, 15 times 4, 60 plus 10 would be 70. So it looks like at 70 meters, they'll be the same. Or same thing here, if you multiply by 4, that's negative 80. So 150 minus 80 also gives you 70. So you could also find the height at which they meet as well. Okay, the last one I want to look at is on this punchline sheet, so number 3 here. And I think that these 3 problems, and we did the extra one just to set up, are a good mix of all the types of word problems you'll see. So you should be able to apply the skills to the other word problems as well. Okay, so it says the larger of two numbers is 8 more than twice the smaller. Okay, so it looks like my two things here are smaller and larger. So I could just say x is the smaller and y is larger. Or either way, you could say x is larger, y is smaller, but I'd avoid using SNL because S looks like a 5. If you want to use SNL, that's fine. But if I write this first equation, now that I have defined my variables, so the larger of two numbers is, so we're saying the larger is y, so the larger of two numbers is, or is equal to, 8 more than twice the smaller. So I have to do twice the smaller, so twice x, and then 8 more than that means you have to add on 8 to it. Right? Okay, and the second one says the sum of the numbers. Okay, so sum is addition. So I could add on my two numbers. Is, so once again, is equal to, okay, so the sum of numbers is equal to 10 less than 3 times the larger. So the larger is y, so I need 3 times the larger, so 3y, but 10 less than that means you're taking away 10. Okay, so if we read carefully and convert this into algebra, these are what my equation should look like. Okay, so I think it should be obvious elimination is not, when nothing's lined up here, so elimination is probably off the table. So substitution would work because we have the y by itself. The only issue, if I substitute this in for y here, at the bottom equation, we have 2y. So I would recommend simplifying this first. So bring all the y's to one side. So I bring the smaller y to the larger. I could just do minus y on both sides. Okay, so that'll give me x plus, sorry, x, that cancels, so equals, so 3y minus 1y is 2y minus 10. All right, so now it looks like I can go ahead and wherever I see a y, I could replace that with 2x plus 8. Okay, so instead of that y, we could put in a 2x plus 8. All right, so this to solve this, I can distribute the 2. So that'll give me what, 4x, 2 times 8 is 16. Okay, and then 16 minus 10 would just be 6, right? So that'll just be 6. Okay, I want to bring all the x's to 1. I'm just going to write it over here since I ran out of room. I want to bring all the x's to one side. I'll bring that back just to... so I could minus this 4x to bring all the x's to this side. So x minus 4x is negative 3x. Okay, so if I divide by negative 3, it looks like my x is going to be negative 2. And you can obviously do the work on a separate paper because there's obviously not enough room here. So x is negative 2. Okay, remember, substitution is easier for the second variable because now we have an equation with just y in it, this first one. So if I plug in negative 2 for x here, we get, okay, so 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So that becomes negative 4 plus the 8 is 4. Okay, so it looks like my x is my smaller number. My x smaller number is negative 2. And my larger the y would be 4. So negative 2 and 4. Okay, which I believe is here. So negative 2 and 4. So at the top, it just says to cross off the letters. So you would just cross off the letters here. Just cross off the entire box, really. And then the remaining letters, once you cross off all 9 correct answers, should spell out the punchline there. Yeah, so follow your plan. So define your variables, write the equations, solve whichever method you find easier or whichever one's easier to do, and then answer whatever the question is asking for.